really the last part of shift, the only part that's really relevant in today's market is bulletproofing the transaction and basically preparing someone to write an offer, a consumer to write an offer, especially if they're not um, up to speed with what the market's doing or if they're from a different type of market.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling that a lot with our agents right now. The their expectations are out of alignment, and where we're having deals just blow up before they should have even gotten started is an agent that's ego is getting in thinking, oh, they should be, my buyer, that kind of thing. But more importantly, the consumer that just isn't up to speed with what to expect, and then they get mad about the response from their offer.
Yeah.
So, and it's we teach it, but until you're doing it and you've had a couple slaps in the face, it's almost like you don't pick it up.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, not that you have to write an escalation clause on everything, not that you have to write that, have the video, but those are the deals that are winning. And I'm guessing about half of our agents aren't educating the consumer about what to expect or anticipate or list to sale price or list to offer price before they're going in. And that's my fear.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think, what I'm hearing right now is a lot of people that are from out of state and they want to buy primary residence or investment property or whatnot. And part of the pre-approval process is making sure that the client or borrower has the cash to close. And what they want to know is how much they qualify for. Well, if they don't have the money for the cash to close, then it's pointless to find out how much you're qualified for.
yeah, because that's just dreaming. That's dreaming what you
exactly.
could do, not what you're ready to do.
Yeah. And part of that is kind of sifting those people out that don't have that cash to close. And I explained to them, it could be a gift. Now, on investment properties, it's got to come from their account. And so I was dealing with the borrower last night. She got really upset with me. I was trying to find out where the cash to close is so the agent isn't wasting his time. And she hung up on me. Okay. Called her right back. And I said, did I do or say something wrong? And she goes, no, I'm just frustrated with this whole process. And that, they're from New York and they think that just because they qualify for a mortgage means that they automatically can buy the house. Well, the cash to close has still got to be there.
Right.
We're talking about a $250,000 duplex, 20% down, that's $50,000. And she goes, oh, we'll save it. Okay. It's going to take you a while to save $50,000 on your income. But anyway.
Well, maybe there's some good opportunity for education on that. Or I haven't looked at a net sheet in a long time, but in a net sheet, there could almost be an area of down payment and a percentage that you'd have to have ready to go. And it's not that Uncle Eddie's going to borrow it to you a week before closing either. It's
right.
That is gifted to you. Now, if it's gifted to you, does it have to sit in the bank for a certain period of time or can it be?
No, unless, like I said, if it's investment property, it's got to come from their account. It's got to be in there for 60 days. So now if Uncle Joe wants to, gift, $50,000 to them 60 days in advance and then wait 60 days and then you can go ahead and close, you can do it that way. And that's kind of how I educated her on that.
Right.
But you're kind of stuck if that was the case.
And then when you think I'm on the receiving end, let's just say Scott's the seller's agent, I'm the buyer's agent, and I've got this buyer from New York that they're hot to trot and they think they're ready to rock and roll, but they're really not, in your eyes and the bank's eyes. And Scott gets this offer for me and I'm like, oh yeah, they're ready. He could tie up that property before that's all unpacked.
Yeah. That's, and that's kind of what's happening here in some cases. And I think as whoever that lender is, they have to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And, Brian and I like to say we live in a box. And if there's a piece of that puzzle that's outside of the box, somehow or another, we got to get it into the box. And in this case, the piece of the puzzle that was sitting outside the box was the cash to close. She had $1,500 in her account. And so I can't go to the agent and say, hey, look, they qualify as far as debt to income ratio, and they qualify as far as, the credit, but they don't have the cash to close. And so we're kind of teaming up with that borrower, and hopefully we can drag it out of her. But
well, not only that, but then say you get into the deal with them, and now you just slow the whole transaction down and taking that property. Scott's taking the property off the market now, that whole period of time. And if they flake out at the very end, he could have looked really unprofessional to his seller, right, Scott?
Right.
And really mess things up.
I don't want to be that guy.
Well, no, but here's the thing is we can't trust that every lender is going to vet the buyer as well as they need to.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have to us from the buy side? And then let's start with the seller side. So let's say this is Scott, and I'm all hot to trot about my buyer. My aunt is coming from New York, and she said she's good, and I'm assuming she's good, and I bring her to you, and you're the lender that doesn't do the full deal. And now Scott's got this offer. What should he do, or what questions should he ask, or what should he call the lender, and what questions should he ask? What does that look like?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Scott should call the lender and find out if they have all the documents, if it's been, if they ran the credit report, if they have the audit, if he ran it through the automated engine, which in most cases called desktop underwriting, or DU. You'll hear that term, and find out if they have the cash to close.
There you go. That's
and
it
so
right
there. I would rather do that all up front rather than it being hearsay and the borrower telling me that, oh, I have $40,000 in the bank. And then we find out that they don't have $40,000 in the bank. They have 20, and then they're saving the other 20. And then, $5,000 is coming from Uncle Joe, or whatever the case may be.
Or they're thinking they're going to pull it out of a 401k, not knowing how much time that's going to take, and blah, blah,
Correct.
blah, 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 and slow the whole closing down. And next, you're doing extensions and all that jazz, right?
Correct. I want to do all that work out front. So if Scott, I would ask those questions. And I have, Brian and I have a series of questions that the listing agent can ask the lender. And I'm happy to send that over to you guys so that you have that.
Yeah, I think we definitely want to get that into the hands of everyone, because this is what's killing deals. Now, here's the thing. Listings are so gold right now. What a shame if Scott acts not like Scott's going to do any of this. We're making Scott the bad guy in this scenario. Scott's like, what's up?
Scott's getting the slap.
But
we like
Scott,
you, Scott. We know that. We love you.
Yeah, we know you're not this agent, but there's a lot. This is a very common circumstance that's happening right now. And how golden is a listing right now, especially when it's new, right? To hit a market. Right. And you got the feeding frenzy, and you got to figure out which offer to go with, and you may have multiples. So, slowing your roll and doing your homework, I think is the key right here. And I think we're so fast that we have to remember, as the agent, we can slow things down and kind of unpack them to pick the right offer.
Yeah. Do you want me to send that list of those questions over to you guys?
Yeah, do you want them? Absolutely. I'd love it.
Okay. Yeah. So, these questions are pertinent for a listing agent to be able to ask. And, some of these lenders say that, they don't even run a tri-merge credit report. And, tri-merge credit report is the most accurate report that you can get as far as their credit goes. So let's say they have let's say a 680 credit score on Experian, and the other two are less than 640 or 620, then that means they're going to, if you qualified them on a conventional loan at 620 and below, you have to go either FHA or VA. So that can mess up the whole transaction.
Right.
And if some of these lenders are only doing that, then that's not going to get us very far.
Well, we have to treat the listing like the golden is. Scott, go ahead. I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was saying I've got one now that it's not a challenge yet, but it will be a challenge in the spring. It's a buyer who has a lease, so he can't really look in earnest until early spring. but I'm sending him properties now so he can get an idea of the market, et cetera, et cetera. And he's working with Brian P. And I guess this has always been there, but it's never been as stark to me as it is in this situation. He's got the down payment, but his income is such, he can only go so high, which is very modest as it relates to the price of the property. So Brian P came back and said he qualifies for a property up to 80,000. And the guy's like, what? 80,000. It turned out, and I understand this, this is not a complaint, but Brian, because he was looking at condos because of the low price point, Brian was cranking into the equation the average condo fee of $400 and some, which is what brought him down to the 80,000. And so Brian is pushing, really look at single family where there's no condo fee, which he can get up to about 150. But that,
talk about a different situation, right?
Yeah.
Finding a single family for 150 in the markets where this guy wants to be is going to be challenged. Now, I think the curiosity question of me, Kurt, and again, this is Brian P, but right now I'm not asking for a pre-approval letter because we're not to that point. But when we get to that point, when that's the circumstance, how do you write the pre-approval letter? Up to what level?
So I explained to the borrower, hey, look, if you're looking at condos or townhomes, then this is approximately how much you're going to qualify for. Now, if the margins are really thin, I tell them the payments cannot exceed whatever that amount is. The payments cannot exceed $1,500, including principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and HOA fees. Now, on a single family, I'll explain to them there is no HOA fee, so you qualify for higher purchase price in that situation. So that every time that I do a pre-approval or pre-qualification letter, whatever the case may be, I try and cater to exactly what the offer is. So if you want to make an offer of 120 and they're asking 125 or they're pre-approved up to 125, I'm still going to do the letter for 120. So there's less chance of them coming back for a renegotiation on it.
Very good. Very good.